And I didn't realize that both you guys, before we get started, you guys grew up, like, spent a long time poor, like just up until like recently when you started several years ago selling on Amazon. That was like really, I didn't know that part. And you guys actually were raised families in one of the poorest counties in the nation.
Yeah.
So you guys came from basically almost nothing, virtually.
Yeah, I was just looking at it the other day that the city where I'm from has a median household income of $13,800 or something. So,
and that's today.
Yeah, that's well, I think it was 2012 data. I think
Still.
it's what the census, latest census data. But yeah,
wow.
Just,
and okay, so real quick, you guys describe for people that don't know, how did you get your start with selling on Amazon?
Yeah, we got we were both working at a gaming company that sold games like Magic and Pokemon and those kinds of things, board games online. And one day our buddy, who was the CFO of the company, came in and he gave his notice, and we had, those jobs, those types of jobs, like he's the CFO of the company. He was well over six figures. They just don't, in our area, they don't exist. Like Eric said, the median household income for our area is $13,800. So, I mean, a guy was sitting here leaving a six-figure job. I mean, we were baffled. And, we were like, what are you going to do? Because, he wasn't from the area. Like, he was from New Jersey. And we were like, you just going to move back and do something there? And he said, no, man. He said, I started selling on Amazon, and I'm making more money part-time than I am just coming into work. And, I'd rather just work from home and be able to do that. Right. And he told us, we were like, how does somebody get started doing that? And he gave us, like, the loosest guidelines possible for retail arbitrage. Like, he's like, just go out there and look for things with a sales rank between 1 and 30,000 that you can make money on. And that's how me and Erica started. We went out, we didn't believe it was real. Luckily, like on our first little trip, we found some Disney cars, and they were like $3 at Walmart. And we saw that they were $15 on Amazon. So we bought a bunch of those, and we didn't actually expect them to sell, but, they, the first day we sent them in, like, they were literally selling like wildfire. And it was just, we realized that, Amazon has a massive amount of demand. So from there, we started our nights and weekends, and, anytime we had free time, we were just out there in stores buying stuff and taking it home and listing it back on Amazon. And then, we did that for about 6 months. And whenever we were getting ready, we're starting to see, we had a pretty good December. And I think it's funny because, like, now in retrospect, like, everybody has a good December because December is great. But to us, like, that was like, wow, this business is really taking off.
Right.
And I ended up getting terminated from my position late in the year. As like a few days right before Christmas, actually. And so I started, I decided I was going to go full time with this because, hell, I didn't have anything else to do. And Eric, I asked him, I was like, hey, man, do you want to come? You want to come along full time or stay? And he had still had a really good salary and stuff like that, but he decided to come along. And next couple of years, we were out there in stores just buying stuff and selling it on Amazon and trying to make money, and did pretty good. Like, but the problem is we don't have a ton of stores in our area. Like, it's just there's just not a lot going on in Kentucky and southeastern Kentucky particularly. So we were always out there on the road driving around hunting products. And I have kids and Eric has kids, and we just really didn't get to see our families as much as we'd like. And even though we were making good money, we didn't have time to spend, with our families and spend that money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, all the money in the world doesn't help you if you can't spend it. And so we started looking for something that was more leverageable. Right. And we initially got started with a retail store. We decided that was the answer. And so we put in a little retail store, and it failed. And then we got started selling My Little Pony products. We made us a website for My Little Pony products because Eric's a brony. And and that wasn't the worst, but it didn't pan out for us, and we ended up selling the website. And then we tried experimenting with private label, and we saw some success with it, but it wasn't as scalable for us. Like, we didn't have the necessary skills to be able to scale it the way we wanted to. Mm-hmm. And then our next little kind of foray was into wholesale, and we failed at that at first too. Like we did what everybody else said. I mean, we Googled wholesale. We tried to contact the giant list of wholesalers. We went to ASD, didn't know what we were doing, lost money there. And honestly, we were just about to give up. And we were sitting in the office pretty dejected. And, just going through these giant catalogs of crap, just looking for anything to sell, anything. And I looked over at Eric and I was like, man, I just don't know why I can't sell this product. Like, I just want this one. I don't want to go through this giant list of junk. Like, I just want to sell this product. And Eric was, this is like that light bulb moment where, you're literally just about to give up. And Eric's like, well, hell, let's ask them where we can buy it. Mm-hmm. So we just called up the company and it was like, hey, we'd love to carry your guys' product. We just, who do we need to contact to set up an account? And they were like, hey, you guys could just do that with us. We have a minimum order of $250. And it was just like, what? Like, that's a thing. I can just buy it from you guys. Mm. And yeah, so that was our real start into wholesale. We'd been dabbling around before that, but I mean, that was our first little bit of success. And, we took that product and we did fairly well with it. And then we got a second product. And that's the true beauty of wholesale, in my opinion, is once you establish that account and that relationship, you're building on it. You're not going out to find that next dollar, right? Like, I'm not going out to try to replace the income from the products I just sold, because I have them coming in every time. So in that little period, that year we finished at 1.2 million in sales. And the next year, that's all we did is we focused straight on wholesale. I mean, it was just,
great.
It was all we did. We weren't out in stores. We were literally trying to build our wholesale business. And the next year we did 3.6 million in sales. And again, it's just because we weren't busy replacing incomes. We weren't, we were able to just constantly build on that foundation. And that's, that was the real start to our business and the wholesale formula.
And what I like about you guys is that there's so much crap out there in teaching people wholesale. Everybody wants to buy a list. It's the first thing you see, Jordan, where can I buy a list for wholesale products? And it's like the worst thing that you can possibly do, right? It's like that is 99.9% of the time a dead end. You're going to lose money or make like a 0.1% profit. And you guys focus so much on it doesn't work. If you're telling the truth, it doesn't work that way. You have to establish a relationship with the supplier. And here's the way to do it, right? And for those of you that were watching, the Dan and Eric's free workshop is right here, wholesaleformula.biz. If you guys are watching and you want this free workshop is going on for the next 6 days or so, Dan and Eric will teach you everything about starting a wholesale business right here. So,
yeah, but you're right about those lists. And the funny thing is you think the worst thing you can do is buy one of them, but actually the worst thing you can do is buy one of them and have the damn thing work, because that's going to set you up to go all in something that's just not going to work. Like, I mean, get the 0.1% that would actually work would be just miserable, because it's not.
People lose money when they say I'm going to buy a list, and they don't even realize it's not even from the manufacturer themselves.
Right.
Correct.
It's just not
like
a
middleman who's trying to liquidate his inventory.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get in it, guys. Let's say first question: what do you need to get started? If you guys had to advise somebody in a nutshell, here's a top 5 things you need to do.
I mean, obviously the most basic internet connection. Right. So a computer, and then you get Amazon.com. You sign up for a seller account, which is free, and then you have to. Actually, you don't even have to. We advise you from here to sign up for an LLC, register, get a tax ID from IRS.gov, which is also free.
Right. You have to be a true business, right? You can't be an individual. You got to be a true business registered in your state.
And on the federal level, it's free. On the state level, it's state to state. But depending, if you can get a professional generally to do it around a couple $100s or whatever. But you need to form. This is an advisement to form an LLC. But you don't have to. Honestly, you can start with just your Social Security number as a sole proprietorship. And honestly, you can do that if you want. It's just we advise people because we want you to think like a business. If you're trying to build a business and that's what you're doing, then you should go ahead and set your foot toward that direction. You don't want to be half in the boat, half out, because you're not setting yourself up for the best possible. So that's an advisement of it. You don't actually need it to get started. You literally just need an Amazon account, an internet connection, and a computer. And so that's the thing is you set up for that seller account, and
Yeah, we advise having about a minimum of $2,000 for inventory. Because it is a very cash flow based business, and that's the thing. That's another thing I really appreciate about this model is that it is cash flow based, which means like you're not having to buy a ton of infrastructure, like you don't have to buy machines to be able to pack orders and all this stuff. It's your costs go directly to inventory, so you're able to sell that inventory and immediately realize a profit.
Right.
That's what makes this, in my opinion, the most accessible model. Like with our products, we're not targeting products or building demand. Like I'm not creating a listing and things like that.
Right.
We target products that already sell super well.
Right.
So whenever we're not having to dump a bunch of money in ads that you may never recover. That's for us, that was the kind of that sour taste from private label, right? Is we had a couple products. One of them did really well. The other one, we just sunk so much money into it, like with ads and things like that, just trying to make it sell. And just never get it off the ground. But with Wholesale, you don't have that. Like you're only selling products that already have those established sales histories and things like that. So you're never trying to build demand, and that's why $2,000 is an acceptable level. Like if you were doing another model like private label, I would say you probably need a minimum investment of $5,000 or $10,000 because you have to be able to absorb the cost of building that listing up.
Right.
And it's
Eric, you said something very interesting in the workshop. I think it was video number 1 and you weren't trying to make a bold prediction or anything. You're saying it could be one. It's so simple right now to sign up as an Amazon seller. Almost virtually anybody can do it anywhere in the world. But there may be a point one day where Amazon says, you know what? We're going to make anybody new coming onto the platform, we're going to make this application process a lot more intense. Because I mean, let's face it, everybody and their brother can be an Amazon seller, and they're going out, they're doing retail arbitrage and all that. It's going to create a huge influx of sellers. And you said, Eric, you said something very interesting, that Amazon may either make a more elaborate sign-up process, few hoops for people to jump to, or one day they might say, you know what, we got enough, thanks.
Right. Yeah,
I mean, right now is the opportunity.
Right, and it's the opportunity cost is low. You're talking about a couple $100, a few minutes of your time, and now because the proof is already there. It's like when we started, there was only 2 categories that were gated. You could sign up for Amazon, and I could be selling in any single category I wanted within the end of business that day when we started. Now, you can still sign up for free, and you're sort of eligible to apply to be able to sell, but you still have to jump through a bunch of hoops to even be able to sell in certain categories. They've already gated those down. And who's to say that they don't move the gate further out and start screening even where you can't even sign up until you're proving that you're a legitimate business or whatever they're looking for. They've got enough. You never know. I mean, I'm not trying to forecast any impending doom or anything, but if you just look at the timeline of how things have went from wide open to more screened. I mean, everybody gets these IP claims. They're obviously getting very more protective of their catalog, the consumer experience. I mean, the proof is there. Now, whether my extrapolation is just far in, it doesn't make any difference. The thing is it could happen, and because it's not asking much for you to be able to set that up. You're talking a day, stretched out over a day. Not even like a day is actual worth of time. Just a few emails you can send, a few websites you can go to. You're set up for a business. You're set Amazon seller account, and then you'll be grandfathered into any of those benefits that you're already getting. It just seems to make a lot of sense to me.
Right. I mean, if you look at it, whenever they originally started talking about gating, like, whenever they introduced the concepts of gates, it was that they had too many new sellers coming into categories, and they wanted to slow the amount of sellers coming in. And they don't make it impossible; they just make it slightly harder, right? And that's the concern. Is at some point right now, Amazon is on such a crazy growth trajectory, right? That they just need sellers. Like they literally need people to come in and be selling products. Like if you look at their year over year, it's 30% plus, like, which is unheard of at their level. But at some point when they reach that saturation, they've proven with other categories that as they start reaching that saturation point, they start pulling back and setting up those little gates. Now, what he was saying is I feel like it's going to happen at some point, that eventually they reach that saturation point where, they have enough sellers supplying products that now they just want to focus on making sellers as good as they can, making sellers improve. And that's whenever I would suspect that at some point you'll see a gate come up that makes it harder for people to get started. And look at it from the other gating perspective. Like, when we initially got ungated in grocery, like right out of the gates, like that was one of the first things we did was get ungated in grocery, because it was me and Eric eat a lot, and we were always in the grocery aisle and found great products. Whenever we got ungated in grocery, you're just grandfathered into these things. So it's like right now, in my opinion, is the best, like literally the best time you can get started on Amazon. I don't care how you're doing. I don't care if you're selling wholesale, private label, arbitrage. I don't care. The point is, at some point, those gates start to go up, and you don't want to be on the outside.
Oh, we've
lost your sound, Jordan.
Yeah, you may have to switch to the one sound and back. We had this earlier. This is, the spoiler alert from earlier. I think we heard something there. Go ahead.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
I got you again, Jordan.
Back, baby.
Cool. All right. So cool. So before we move to the next question that eCartelli did ask, do we need things like a resale tax license, resale seller's permit, retail sales tax license?
Right. Those are basically all the same thing, and yes, you will need that. When you register for your state, you'll have, in Kentucky, it's a sales and use tax permit. Some states don't have sales tax, so they have a different method, a little certificate you can get, because what it's going to have when you talk to these brand owners, you have to certify that you're a legitimate business. So that's what it does. That's a certificate from your state saying, I don't have to pay sales tax on what I'm buying because I'm a certified business and I'm going to resell it and pass that tax burden on to the consumer. That's all that is a certificate of that. They need proof of that so they don't have to charge you sales tax. Otherwise, they're illegally, if they sell it to you without that permit and not charge you sales tax, well, they should be, the government wants that money on that transaction. And so they're going to have to pay it, or they're doing something illegal. So that's all it is. Right. It's just a thing to prove. And, it's easy to do.
In practice, to eCartelli, in practice, it's like one of the first things they ask for when you're talking to a brand owner or manufacturer, right? It's immediate. Like the number one thing is first out of the gate. Okay, can we have your reseller permit, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so how and where to find awesome wholesale products? I know this is your specialty, so this is what you do, Dan. When you first started, you held up the item. You said, "I know this sells well. I want to sell it." So.
And more importantly, we know it sells well where we want to sell it. That was the key. And it doesn't just sell well anywhere. I don't care if it sells well in Walmart or on eBay or whatever. It sells well where we're trying to make our money. So it just made sense, right?
Right. I mean, whenever we look for products, like that was the hang up for us, is we were originally going through all these catalogs and we were trying to bring products to Amazon, right? Like we were trying to look at a list of products and say, what works on Amazon? But in retro, once we figured that out, that first item is because we knew that item was selling well already on Amazon. Like we bought it on Amazon, so we knew it was a good product. Mm-hmm. And, and then they told us, hey, yeah, we'd love to work with you guys and set up an account. So then we transitioned our strategy to, instead of looking to bring products to Amazon, to looking on Amazon first. So like everywhere, now what we started doing is we're looking at Amazon, seeing what sells well there. And then over time, we develop criteria to kind of thin that list, because Amazon carries 500 million products. Like, how do you know which ones are the right ones, right? So, that was where the criteria came along. But yeah, absolutely. Like every product we find is from Amazon. That's what right. We go to look for products from Amazon because we know that's where they're selling and we know how well they're selling.
Right. It isn't that interesting that a lot of people starting in wholesale, they just say, oh, I love automotive stuff, and I'm going to go do a search for automotive bulk product providers or whatever. So, yep. So you Dan, I think in video 2 or video 3, you call it like 8 herbs and spices or something. So for the beginner who's saying, okay, I want to look at Amazon, find a product to resell, you got criteria, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
And what are those?
Yeah, our criteria for basic, just to qualify leads, that's what this is like you're looking to create a list of leads of people to start contacting to see if they might be, work out with you long term, right? So the way we're qualifying leads is we want products that are not sold by Amazon. Like that's the first criteria. Like if Amazon is a seller of the product, we don't want to carry it. And there are a couple of reasons. Number one, Amazon doesn't share the buy box the same way. Sometimes they do. Like there'll be times where you'll get that same buy box rotation you would get with a third party seller, but other times you'll get zero. And there's no discernible rhyme or reason from the outside looking in as to why or how that happens. So like, I don't know why I get sales sometimes and don't get them others, but it's very hard to make a business around unpredictability. Like if I can't predict how often I'm going to sell a product, why would I carry it?
Right.
Like, so it's not that I can never get sales versus Amazon. It's that I can't tell you how many sales I'll get. So I don't want to be in that position. The second reason is it makes it harder to update those listings. Like when Amazon Retail has control of a product listing, it's significantly harder to make changes to that listing. So the problem, with that is a lot of our strategy deals with helping these brands make improvements to their listing, helping brands or adding value to brands. Like, basically finding ways to help them make more money on Amazon within that channel, or finding ways to help them better feature their product. So a lot of the things we might go to them with is like, hey, you guys are don't have the correct pictures, or your pictures, you don't have enough pictures, or something like that. Well, if I say that to where Amazon's a seller on a listing that Amazon's a seller, I can't necessarily easily add those product pictures to the listing.
Right.
Like, it's a much harder process. So if I can add value, and that's one of the things that we've kind of learned over time is, you can set up these relationships where you're just buying and selling products, but if you're not adding value and you're not really developing that relationship, like, it's not going to work out long term. It's just a source of money, and more often than not, it's probably just a distraction. So, and our business just absolutely almost doubled. Like, whenever we started focusing on relationships and building those relationships with manufacturers around value, they want to work with you, and they want to work with you long term. So, those are the two primary reasons that we don't want to share a listing with Amazon. Then our next criteria is we want more than 3 sellers. And a lot of people are like, whoa, that's counterintuitive. I would want to be on there with as few sellers as possible. But, our logic behind that is this is more of it's just a way for us to save time, right? Like, because there's a lot of products on Amazon that have a single seller, and those generally are private label products.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whenever private, why do we not want to reach out to private label products? Realistically, they're all kind of the same, right? Like, physical products are physical products. Like, it doesn't matter, whose name is on the outside of this can. This is an energy drink, like, realistically.
Right.
But with private label products specifically, those products were generally developed to be sold on Amazon. Like, that was why the creator of the product made it, is they said, I want to make a product that I can sell on Amazon.com.
Right.
Well, if that's the case, if their goal was to always be the retailer, my interests don't really align with them, right? And
right.
So in that regard, like, if you look at the motivation that most manufacturers have for selling or for wanting to work with Amazon sellers, what is it? It's like Clorox, for example. I just like using that one because everybody's heard of it.
Sure.
Like Clorox, let's say, when you go to a store to buy Clorox, you don't go to the Clorox store. You go to Walmart, or you go to a retailer. And why is that? Like, Clorox could make more money as a retailer, right? No, not necessarily. It's not their goal. Their goal is to focus on multi-channel, right? They want to get their products into as many channels as possible. They want to increase global awareness and things like that. That's their focus. They're a manufacturer.
Right.
Like, if they were focused on individual channels, like if they were trying to, solve each channel individually, that's just a huge distraction for them, and it's way less effective for their marketing team than it would be to have retailers. Like, for example, for them to sell their product as well on Amazon as, say, we would, they would take them literally potentially years of research to learn to get good enough at Amazon, right? Why would they do that when they can just leverage our expertise?
Right, of course.
And that's the motivation brands have, whereas these private label brands don't necessarily have that same motivation. So that's why we avoid products with less than 3 sellers. Is we don't, I just don't want to spend a lot of time reaching out to people that probably don't need or want my help.
Fascinating. You guys have dissected every aspect of this business, really, because just from your experience alone the past 4 or 5 years doing wholesale.
Right. I mean, you get a lot of, you just learn. It's kind of interesting the amount of things that you just pick up along the way. You just get involved in the marketplace.
Right. But anybody who's watching this, make sure you get the free workshop, Wholesale. Learn more from Dan and Eric, the wholesaleformula.biz. We'll take you right to the free workshop. What are we missing, Dan, in terms of finding a manufacturer, the 8 herbs and spices? Did you cover them all?
Well, the last little criteria for us is that the product sells. Like, we don't want to, I don't want to be spending time creating demand. And I'm not saying it's not possible. It absolutely is. Like, if that's a skill set, by all means, you can do it. But for us, like, when we came to this business, we didn't have a big war chest of money. Like, we didn't have a giant reserve of capital to be able to.
There's no big giant war chest of money anywhere around here. In fact.
Right. But we didn't have a ton of capital to invest in products that didn't sell. So we've always focused on products. We look for products that sell at least 60 times a month, like minimum.
Right.
And the logic behind that is I want products that sell incredibly well, and that way I don't have to worry if I'm going to get my money back. I know that if the product's selling, if it's been selling sustainably for several months at that rate, that I'm going to be able to sell that product. Even if I had to lower my price to do it, there's enough demand that I'm never going to get stuck with a product. Because that's like the one killer in a cash flow business, right? Is anytime you are setting on inventory that can't sell or doesn't sell, like, that is taking your ability to make money away. So that's the that was a crippling factor for us. And that's why we really do focus on products that already have sustained sales ranks.
And how do you find that this rolls right into another question eCartilly is asking, but how do you determine, okay, we want to make sure this is selling 60 units per month or per day? I forget what you said, but how do you discover that? eCartilly referenced Jungle Scout. If he can give, he's asking for specifics, but how do you determine, are you using software to determine that, or just observationally?
No, I absolutely, we use software. And that's the thing is, whenever you, in your business, like, you should do your best to operate with metrics and less filling. And it gives you a more objective view of your products. But yeah, we use Jungle Scout, and it's, you can use the free software. Absolutely. And what you do is you take the sales rank from the product, the sales rank in this top level category, say grocery and gourmet. Like, I love that one. Mm-hmm. But
yeah,
so you take the top level sales ranking, grocery and gourmet, and you plug that into the junglescout.com/estimator, and it'll tell you approximately how many times that thing sells per month.
Okay, and
that may be off just by a little bit, but it's within we've done extensive testing with the software, and it is very, very close.
So that's the free feature on Jungle Scout's website. You don't need to buy anything. Jungle Scout, eCartilly, if you're listening, junglescout.com/estimator. And that'll give you a ballpark range of the sales rank, right? Or how frequently the item is selling, correct?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Do you guys, and I'm going to divert this for a minute, do you guys have any specific things when you're using Jungle Scout to set in the parameters when you're doing a search? And if you don't want to get into that, I know that there's a video out there you guys did with Greg from the founder of Jungle Scout, where you guys go through, okay, here's what we do, right? Here's how we use Jungle Scout. Here's the parameters we put in here, right?
Right.
Yep. No, absolutely. Like, that's in the paid app. Like, if somebody's using the paid app, we actually just plug in the 3 criteria I told you about earlier. As we look for, we'll use, we plug in FBA, FBM sellers, but not Amazon. We use 20 product price higher than $20 and 3 or more sellers.
Okay, cool. And do you guys focus, I think I know the answer to this, you guys don't focus on 1 or 2 categories. You guys will go where the money is. Product, in terms of product categories, right? Where the money is, and it makes sense. It's maybe a lighter product, correct?
For sure. We're a little, honestly, we're just willing to sell anything that makes money. I don't care what it is. I don't care. Right. But now, one of the caveats to that is, whenever we see people starting out, and we usually suggest that for them to start out in somewhere, in a product line they have some familiarity with. Like, if you're an avid hunter or something like that, start out in hunting, even if it's as a consumer. Like, that's, a lot of people are like, well, I'm not necessarily an expert on anything. Well, you don't have to be. Like, you just, the logic behind that is, first off, if you're, if let's say Jordan's a hunter, he's going to know more about hunting, different types of hunting things, right? Yes. You're going to know about different types of products within that space. But more importantly, if let's say you call up a brand owner and you're starting to talk to them, it's just going to be an easier conversation because, when you're talking about for a duck whistle, like, you may know how to use it or know what a good duck whistle is or something like that. Like, it just makes those types of conversations significantly easier.
Yeah, and we talked about that the last time I think we did this is I went to a local trade show here in Las Vegas for pet products. And I was offered after I was first rejected when I approached them, and then I was offered to be a reseller, and then I didn't like the margin, so I didn't pursue it. But I was using the pet product, and I walked up to them at the trade show, and I'm like, I'm a big fan of this thing. It was some sophisticated water bottle for dogs and spout and all that, and it was the truth. I owned the product at $14. I paid or $20 or something, and I said, I love it. I love your product, and that changes the whole dialogue because they're used to people running up to them at the trade show saying, I want to resell your product. Give me a great price, that kind of stuff. And they're but I come in from that and they're like, oh, really? And what do you think about it? Oh, I'll use it in my car and this and that. It changes the whole dynamic.
Everything.
Right? Fair to say?
Right. That's absolutely fair to say.
But as you gain that experience, like as you gain that experience, you can start having those conversations with more. It's just the best place to start out is with something and can talk about.
Here's the next question. How do you get products cheaper than your competitors?
Oh, I mean, this was where the beauty of reverse sourcing wholesale came up for us is, initially whenever we were looking for those giant distributor catalogs, like you're looking at, and it's just hard to make money, right? Like you can't make money because there's what's happening is the brand owner is selling it to the distributor who's selling it to you. Well, everybody has to make money in that exchange, right? The brand owner wants to make money, the distributor wants to make money, and then you're left with the highest possible price. So whenever we started going brand direct, like whenever we started working directly with the brand owners, we're able to cut out that segment of the pie, right? Like I'm able to cut out that distributor cut and just get the product pre-markup. So a lot, whenever we're working with those brands, we're not having to pay the distributor price, and that's how we're able to get it cheaper than our competitors. But then there's even advanced strategy involved in there, right? Like beyond that, if you start working with those brands to deliver significant value, they're going to want to work with you more. And typically that's whenever you're able to really introduce some more advanced negotiation and things like that to further drive down your price. Like over time, what we see with our products is that our margins get better. And it's because first we start at the bottom where we're getting it direct. And then as we build that relationship over time and we continue adding value, we're able to drive our price down from the manufacturer sheerly because they see the value in what we're doing and want to work with us.
Interesting. So they end up giving you the more price that may be more sided with the distributor versus the end reseller, correct?
Right.
So if I'm pretend I'm brand new to selling on Amazon, I want to start sourcing wholesale, and I say, look at guys, I'm not really an expert on Amazon yet. Like I wouldn't know, call a brand owner and say, oh, your listing is missing X pictures and this description it could be worded in a different way and have. So I mean, I kind of know internally, I know the answer to this. I want to hear from you guys is that this kind of intimidates people. They say, well, I don't know how to do any of that. What do you suggest to them?
I mean, for us, like it's about positioning, right? Like whenever I contact a brand owner, I don't contact them and say, hey, I can literally do all these things by myself and make your listing better. Like I don't say that. Like we don't position ourselves as the do-it-all guys. Like that's not my goal. I never want to misrepresent myself to a brand owner because I can't. Like I can't take pictures. I can't do descriptions and things. I'm not a fantastic writer. So what we do is the first thing is we tell what our real job is being able to spot deficiency. Like I can look at a listing and I can tell you that it doesn't have enough pictures. I can tell you that it doesn't have the right pictures. And that's what we train people to do in the wholesale formula, right? Is we train them how to literally decipher a listing and look for its deficiency. Mm-hmm. And now let's say, with pictures, whenever I contact them about, and I bring that up, I'm like, these are some of the things that I feel like would help really enhance your guys' Amazon presence would be adding, additional pictures. Do you guys have the product portfolio that I could check out and maybe see what fit? Like 99% of the time they have it. Like they just have all that stuff on hand.
Right.
And then if we said, hey, we would love to write some better bullets. Like, would it be possible to talk to your marketing team and potentially work with them on it? You can get them to write it. Like, what we would do is we might do some keyword research and tell them what keywords to really pump in there and have them write it. But you can have their marketing team write it. And guess what? They want to. Like that's their job is they want to better market their product, right?
Right.
So it's, whenever you're thinking about it, I think a lot of people get caught up on that positioning. Like I'm not an expert. You don't have to be. You just have to be resourceful. And then,
right.
We've literally never taken a picture in our office. Right. We've, but we've updated thousands of listings.
Yeah, because you figured that would be the first reaction. Somebody says, well, but you're really not. You're just kind of helping them pull the pieces together because they haven't had somebody to say, look at, because you've already spotted they've got deficiencies. You're thinking, okay, so they obviously don't have anybody to pull all these pieces together. Let me kind of volunteer without kind of spending a dime and say, well, here's what I suggest you do, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Interesting. Just before we continue, E-Cartilli has another question. How much should we budget for ads and taking pictures? But I think we kind of answered that in terms of taking the legwork and helping improve a listing, an existing product listing on Amazon. You really don't have to spend anything unless they give you an offer to say, Dan will pay you X amount to fix it for us, right? But
we've also had that happen. Yeah, I mean that's also happened. Is like, hey, yeah, we don't have these. It was funny, but this actually is a brand that we were just working with. We talked to them about the product portfolio, and asked them like, hey guys, do you guys have a product portfolio that we could use? And they were like, well, they did. They actually had one, but the pictures weren't sufficient. And we went and we showed them some of the pictures that their competitors had. Like, hey, is this something? This is more along the lines of what we would look for. can you guys get this for us? And they were like, could you guys get this for us? Like, could you guys help us out with this? And it's like, yeah, sure. We can connect you with one of the local or a local photographer, or we actually just had, a third-party resource that we used. And we're like, hey, all we did is make that connection. They bought their pictures and they sent us the pictures that we wanted.
And I'll tell you another thing that we do, if you're talking, that's, we'll also, sometimes we do run ads for products, but we get it subsidized. The company will pay for us to run ads. We sell them that we think that their product will perform better with ads based on our keyword research and these, and we'd like to run them and expect these type of results. And, either they pay for the campaign or give us free product, which in effect pays for the campaign. So we oftentimes get that type of, that type of quid pro quo type of relationship going with that too, where we're taking, we're helping increase their exposure, which will increase our sale, everybody's sales. So it's just win-win-win, for everybody. And they're generally just, very, very receptive to that type of, conversation.
Now, but if somebody was starting out and they said, okay, Dan, or Eric, I got into this relationship with the manufacturer. They want me to run ads. Hey, look, I don't know it. I mean, there is a learning curve to running the Amazon ad platform.
Sort of, but I mean, they've made it really easy now. They've got the automatic targeting system is really good on Amazon, and like there are next level strategies that you run the automatic for a certain amount of time, and then you extract the best keywords and put manual. But like that's just next level. I mean, that's what marketing firms do. We're not a marketing firm. Automatic targeting does all that we need to do for all intents and purposes. Yeah. So
the automatic targeting is a selection when you're running the ad.
Right. Literally just how much money do you want to spend? And our algorithm will spend it for you. Is this cool? Yes, because it does.
And notice how everybody in your space makes it much more complicated.
Sure, and they can, and it's probably in their best interest, obviously, all the time to make it a little more complicated, because then it becomes exclusive when it. I mean, like I said, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's a 15% improvement or 20% when you extract those keywords and that, but it's not worth the time. I'm not pumping millions of dollars in this budget where the extra 15% is 150 grand return. Right. It's not anything realistic. And the time that, can it be more maximized? Of course, but it's so.
And that's stuff you learn along the way too. I mean, like as you're doing this kind of stuff, but to get started, I mean, Eric's absolutely right. Like whenever we first got started with manufacturers, we just got started with those automatic campaigns, and we have like a cool little strategy that we teach it within TWF for beginners, and it's super easy and literally anybody can do it.
Okay, so in your full wholesale formula course, it's at the wholesaleformula.biz. You guys provide a training module for getting started with ads, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, excellent. So let's talk a little bit about international. You got to folks have somebody who's outside the U.S. and I get this a lot. And they say, I want to start selling wholesale products on Amazon. What's different for them versus the U.S. based person?
Not a lot. Like this is where it's really cool. I mean, in some ways, I kind of envy the international folks, because I feel like they have an advantage, depending on how they use it, right? Okay. But not a lot. I mean, what a businesses want. They just want you to be a registered business. They don't care if you're an American. They don't care what, they're looking to sell products. They care that you're a registered business. So you can be a registered business in your own country to start those relationships, or you can register a business in the U.S. and it's not, either one's not terribly difficult to do. So it's like you kind of got that option of being able to decide which would be better for you, as internal, having that within your own country or being able to create it. But I feel like the international folks have a pretty good advantage, particularly if they haven't one of the if they're like based in Europe. Now Australia has a marketplace. Like anywhere with an Amazon marketplace, particularly, I think has a huge advantage, because with those marketplaces, they can approach these US-based brands and be like, hey, we'd love to sell your products on Amazon.com, but additionally, we would love to help you guys market your products internationally on the other Amazon platforms. I'm from Europe, and I would love to get your products optimized on the UK platform and on the .de platform. That's just a humongous advantage, I feel like, whenever they can, that's a service that they can easily offer to people to be able to expand their sales. And that really does kind of entice those, the brand owners to want to work with them. So it is basically the same.
It's interesting you should say that, because Amazon.com corporate is approaching us sellers thinking that we're, he's reselling this item. We need to get this over into Europe. And it's like, so I'm getting inquiries from Amazon.com saying, Jordan, can we help you facilitate getting your products over to Europe, et cetera? So not only is the manufacturer looking to be expanding internationally, but Amazon.com wants to sell it, get the products over there for them as well. And all that information's out there, right? Makes sense?
Yep.
Makes sense. Here's another question regarding things are different today regarding wholesale. So versus say 2015, 2016, can you guys, the landscape has changed for the person just entering it. I mean, again, in one of your YouTube videos, which are great, by the way, the Q&A you take from viewers is on YouTube. And one of the, and you said it, look, this is not easy. Correct. I mean, starting and growing a business effectively is not easy, but nothing that's worth doing is going to be easy in the first place. So can you say, I mean, there's got to be some differences, right? Versus 2015 versus, today.
I mean, it's definitely, it has gotten more competitive.
Okay.
A little bit. There are more sellers. Amazon regulations have changed. Like there's a lot different. In 2015, honestly, it felt like kind of like the Wild Wild West, and it's the marketplace has changed. But that's the point, is it's still accessible. Like we were talking about earlier, like it's still accessible to anybody. At some point, it might not be, but right now it is.
Right.
But as far as the major changes, I feel like it's great. Like it's kind of funny because I feel like with us particularly, where we have a huge advantage with our community. Like I feel like we've been significantly ahead of changes for a long time, and that's because our community functions almost like a hive mind. Like we see so many new ideas and things like that from within that community that we're able to apply it. And before, like whenever I would approach somebody in 2015 to get an account, like anybody was willing to give you an account, right? Now it's gotten significantly tougher. Like brands are more aware of what Amazon is. They're, a lot of brands, like you reach out and you say, hey, I'd love to set up an account with you guys. And they're like, guys, we're not looking for any Amazon sellers at this time. Like that's a common answer now. So realistically, but what that's done is it's actually increased the opportunity.
Yes.
Like
it's not really increased competition at all.
Right.
Because those people that we're not competing against, the people not willing to put any work in, not willing to follow through.
That's what I was hoping. That's what I was
to bring any value. So there's not, competition hasn't gotten, in fact, it's gotten less because there's fewer people willing to do that. I mean,
and I was hoping you were going to mention that because that's where you guys come in as the differentiator for people who want to learn about wholesale, whether it's in your free online workshop or your full blown enrollment that's open now, is that you guys are helping people who want to start out selling on Amazon separate themselves from the pack, because the pack, the 99% of the inquiries that these manufacturers, brand owners are getting are people with no manners. I'm seriously, right? I mean, I'm not
no manners, no experience, no manners, no experience, and no money.
No manners, no money, and they call them up and they say, I want to resell your product. Give me your best bottom dollar price. It doesn't work like that.
Right. And the problem is like, I mean, it's a problem. They are self-absorbed rather than leading with value.
Correct.
We convince ourselves that we're just trying to get what we want. We only care what you can provide to us. Let me have all of this awesome things that you have. I don't plan on returning anything other than this check, which you can get from anybody. There's nothing of value I'm giving to you that can't be gotten anywhere else. So that's the difference. And we're not in competition with those bozos. I mean, honestly.
That's great.
Right. Like that's great. Our focus has been on adding value and teaching the people in our community to consistently add value. So it's like, as these gates go up, it just makes our strategy and structure that much more viable. Because, whenever everybody's coming to the door the same way, like you need to be able to set yourselves apart. And that's what TWF is. It's like we've carefully formulated these strategies over years of failures.
I'm not carefully formulated them. I'm pretty sure we bludgeoned through a few of them. But they were formulated. No, he said we carefully formulated them. I don't know that
through years of failure.
But you guys did have all your bumps and your hiccups, and
that's what we do pass on. We do make it to where it is careful for you going forward. We weren't careful running headlong into some walls sometimes, some great successes sometimes, but ultimately, like TWF is an extension of exactly a reflection of what works in our business as it stands, now.
And what you described in terms of setting yourself apart from the pack, that's just like business life, period. Right. So no matter what other industry you pick, I could go decide I want to go do real estate tomorrow or whatever. There's certain fundamentals that you have to do to provide value to the prospect customer, to be professional, to know your numbers. That's what I just said is just business life period, no matter what you decide to do. So there's this notion that people are just going to get rich quick doing anything, whether it's wholesale sourcing or retail arbitrage or real estate. It just doesn't happen anymore.
And that's what the people we don't want taking the course, those are the types of people we don't want to attract. It's just going to you come to the table with so much expectation, you have nothing but disappointment to gain from it, because you're trying to envision this crazy dream, and you want to be there tomorrow. You want to be on the moon tomorrow. And I'm sorry, you're not getting there tomorrow. That's just not realistic. We're not Elon Musk, and these things don't happen for us. It takes hard work and it takes time. And so the people that are looking for that, hey, you know what? Hopefully you find your way, but it's probably not going to be a good fit for us and those type of people.
Right. Perfect. Here, another question. The general monthly cost of a prep center for someone who is living out of the U.S. and if you are taking out a business loan to begin, since we cannot touch the product technically. So I don't listen to the part about the loan, but
the monthly cost is. There's no, it's generally it's obviously per item generally. They may have some sort of membership fee or small monthly fee. It'll depend prep center to prep center, but so there's not a specific fee. It'll depend on how many items you process. You process 1,000 items and it's 60 cents an item, then there you are. And if it's 200 items, it's still but there is no immediate increase in expense just because you're from the U.S. I don't see my products either. I'm in the U.S., but my supplier is in the U.S. And that's the thing is most of ours are domestic, but it wouldn't make any difference having your supplier shipping to an FBA Amazon prep center. It doesn't make any difference where you're sending that email from or creating that shipment from. We create ours from the U.S. because we're in the U.S., but it wouldn't make any difference. There's no any other increase in price or barrier for that type of relationship just because you're non-U.S.
That's one of the things I really do appreciate about the prep centers too, is that, whenever you have a prep center, it's not just direct overhead, or it is only direct overhead. I'm not having to pay storage and rental and all this stuff. I'm just paying for like Eric said, the item that they process. Right. Now that scales based on the amount, but beyond that, I'm not having to pay rent and storage. So it should be a directly predictable expense for you.
Your cash flow is a lot easier, more black and white when you see that. It's I process 5,000 items at this cost. I don't have, variable or even fixed monthly recurring fees like rent, employee insurance, and all these things you have when you're running a warehouse. Right. So it does make it a little cleaner.
And just to add to that, the fulfillment centers have become highly competitive. So the gentleman that asked the question, you can go look at some U.S. fulfillment sites web pages, and you'll see they'll give you their pricing per unit or per 100 units processed or whatever, and you're going to get a ballpark idea of the additional costs you're going to have to pay, and that should be built into your profit analysis. Correct?
Right. Exactly. But you're never paying that cost before you process an item, so it's not. You're able to whenever you find an item, you're able to plug that cost in, see if it works. If it works, move forward. If it doesn't,
correct. Good. I wrote something about it in my blog, and I wanted to touch upon that because I source in my major sourcing is 3 different methods. So retail and online arbitrage are kind of categorized together. Private label, I've got 2-3 products, and wholesale. And the problems that I had, which weren't devastating, problems, but there were annoyances in the past year, landed in the private label and the retail arbitrage. And the private label, I had somebody file a false copyright claim on a product that simply couldn't be copied. You couldn't copyright the design because it's commonly used in medical scenarios. And Amazon jumped, as they always do when they receive a copyright complaint. They immediately take your listing down, and you don't get it back up unless you hire an attorney. And my profit per piece is not worth me hiring an attorney. So that is a problem that wholesale can largely resolve, because that's a lot of that. If that ever happened, unlikely with the brand owners that you work with, they own the product. That's in their ballpark, correct?
Yeah.
You won't get your individual listing taken down because you're an authorized reseller for that product. So they're not going to do that to you. So and the other thing I had was the on a retail arbitrage product that I did very well at a local retail store around Christmas time. A product I paid $1 a piece for, and I was selling it for $13 or $14. One customer got the product, sent in a complaint to Amazon and said it was inauthentic. It was a Disney product. It was not inauthentic. It was an authentic Disney licensed product. And Amazon took that. Luckily, I had sold out of all of them at that point, but Amazon didn't care. They said, you're restricted from selling this product because of one customer. But if that was my livelihood, for instance, and it's not, I mean, that's
right.
Be fine. If that was my livelihood, I'd be like, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
So there's two scenarios. You know, the work involved, obviously, in getting these products was significant. Well, the private label one was a lot of work. The retail arbitrage one wasn't a lot of work, but the inherent risks in there are generally not, 99.9% of the time not found when you're sourcing wholesale the right way. Correct. Like the way that you guys teach.
Right. No, that's the thing. It takes care of both those because you're upfront with that relationship with the manufacturer. They know you sell on Amazon. So if somehow some like pissed off competitive seller wants to try to file a fake IP claim or something to that effect, you get that cleared up within a day. You just reach out, hey, I need this invoice. Your invoices are direct from manufacturer. Perfect. Or I need this letter stating that I am an authorized reseller. This just all gets cleared up. But most of ours are like even under brand management now to where they can clear it up on their own. It's so much better. You don't have to worry about anything. Those are the worst kind of, we used to, in those days we get the same, emails and like, you just got to hope that the receipts work. Cause it's at the time we had Walmart receipts and you just got to hope it was 50-50 at that time. You just keep opening cases until somebody let you through, cause that was the first start of it. So none of that, you don't have to worry about it anyway. Like at this point, I get pissed off about it, of course, but it's just a mild inconvenience. Honestly, like you just open one case. Oh yeah, because it's what happens. It automatically, Amazon system automatically does it. It doesn't check if there's any validity to the claim. It's just some fool opened up a claim against you. Now you are guilty. You have to prove yourself innocent. And the best thing is we have the best acquittal system there is. I mean, the brand owner is saying yes, they are authorized. Their product is direct from us, and they're authorized to sell on our channel. Cleared up, boom. No worries at all.
Interesting. And another thing that people don't understand is that when you guys are sourcing your wholesale products, you're looking at what kind of your margins. You're still looking at 20 to 30%.
Sure. No, absolutely. And that's a minimum. That's kind of the thing is I think margins should be fluid. Like on if I were buying a product that were $100, like I can take a lesser margin, and you should always be fluid with that. Don't make a hard and fast rule that would negatively affect your business. But yeah, like we with our margins, we look for products with 20 to 30% ROIs at the minimum, and we don't discriminate on the high end. Like we have lots of products. Like we have products that are over 100% ROI, like that are wholesale products. Wow. It's just that's. For us, we find that 20 to 30% is a great way to accrue capital and build your business.
And the interesting thing is that you talk to someone, let's say some retail arbitrage or private label folks, not all of them, but some of them say, well, I'm making 50% ROI on this item that I got in the store, and they're not accounting for everything else. Yep. They're not accounting for their gas, time running around, right? There was an sorry, go ahead, Eric.
No, it's always time. I mean, people just discount their time as $0.
Right.
Like, it's like, gas was only, $20 for a tank of gas and this, that, and the other. It's like you wasted, or no, I shouldn't say wasted, but you spent all day. You have to divide that by the profit you were going to get. So like that is your cost per hour. But there's the thing too. There wasn't even a guarantee that you were able to spend that much. Maybe you had a great day shopping. That's fantastic.
What about the 3 shitty days you had?
Right. Like the next day doesn't promise anything. But with ours, you have relationships. It's a matter of an email. Like for my overhead after the initial investment of getting them to say yes, having this conversation, now they understand that it's a symbiotic relationship. Our companies have our interests aligned and they want to work with us. It's a matter of sending over an email. Hey, send me, 95 units of this over to my prep facility. Hey, great. Thanks. Talk to you next month. Hope things are going good for you. And then, if there's ever any complications along the way, of course, we're right there for them, but it's really just a normal, relationship, and it's fantastic, for us, and that's why it's been so successful.
With retail arbitrage, I mean, they're right. Like our margins were gigantic too. Like they were. But the problem is, and this is what was the real problem for us, is it's just not scalable. Like I can't, if I'm out there shopping 10 hours, I can't just commit to another 10 hours.
Right.
Like I can't be, you know, there's only so many hours in a day, and it's just that's the weakness of the model is it does have great margins. You are able to get awesome products that you can sell, but you're always like you're capped by the amount of time you have.
Because here's the thing. So let's do it over a month. Let me give you a pretty good example. I think I just worked this out in my head, but like retail arbitrage. So you know, for the month, you go out and you shop and you made all this money, right? And then next month, to make that same amount, you're starting back at zero. But for a wholesale account, let's say I secured 2 accounts this month. So now I've got that profit from those 2 accounts. Now next month, I start out with those 2 accounts. My ledger starts out with a profit from those and any I can add to it this month. And then I carry those over to the 3rd month. So for these like replenishable models, you know, every month you start back at zero. So you can make a lot of money, but you're running from zero up instead of taking the stairs each time, you know, and so each month you can just see that going up. And I think that is, you know, I think that it really, you know, highlights the difference there. And, you know, that's something to really consider when you're talking about building cash flow, building a business, building sustainability. That's what that requires.
Right. Running a true business.
Yeah.
You know? So guys, listen, if anybody has any more questions, well, how do they contact you?
The wholesaleformula.biz.
So
just go to the wholesaleformula.biz, and then we send you a free, like whenever you go through that workshop, like if you guys haven't been through the workshop, definitely go through that workshop. But you also get a invite to our little private Facebook group, and that's where me, Eric, and our team
/FB.
Okay. Yeah, and that, you know, our entire team, right, is in there answering people's questions, trying to help you guys get started. And, you know, whether it's with wholesale or whatever, we're trying to help people understand Amazon better because we think it's the best opportunity out there.
Awesome. Great, guys. This has been great. We just hit an hour. So
perfect.
Excellent. Appreciate your time. Looking forward to seeing you in the forums. And always good talking to you. Good seeing you.
Absolutely, brother. I look forward to seeing you the next time I'm in Vegas.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. We got some catching up to do.
That's right.
See you, Joe.
Okay, guys, take it easy. Thank you again.